Hey, folks, welcome back. It's good to have you here. My guest today is Dr. Julie Kroll, who I am thrilled to share with you. We just finished recording our episode a few moments ago, and we had a wonderful exploration for a couple of hours exploring coherence, uh, the superorganism of humanity and our collective nervous system, how we can be in relationship with what's happening on planet Earth right now, the collective evolutionary unfolding that's occurring on planet Earth in this time. And if you stick around to the end of the podcast, we share some practices and some resources that we're either applying now or have found historically supportive for our own personal evolutionary journey and engaging with life in a really robust and resourced way. So I'm grateful you're here. I want to welcome you. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of this program. I really appreciate you. My hands going to my heart. I'm just feeling a lot of love for you being here as a listener and being in the field that this podcast is recorded from. So yeah, thanks for being you. One thing I want to share with you before I hit play on the podcast is that just a few days ago, I created a guided meditative journey called Light Up the World that's available for you to download. It's $0. You can get it for free, essentially. At least there's no nominal dollar price tag on it. And yeah, I've posted it several places. You can find it on my social media if you go on my Facebook or my Instagram. And if you can't find it there and you want it, just shoot me an email or a message somehow and I'll get it to you. It'll be on my website here in the next week or two. Yeah, it feels fitting to share the Light Up the World meditation as a part of this podcast because I experienced Dr. Julie as someone who lights up the world and who is engaging with communities and with projects and people who are reinventing planetary systems and emerging new ways of being that are lighting up the world. So if you're looking for a 45-minute practice that you can do in your own time that's pre-recorded, I just want to share that as an additional resource that's available to you. It comes from deep down in my heart as a gift to you. I just want you to know it's here for you if you're feeling called to explore it. Okay, sending you a lot of love and support. Thanks again for being you and for lighting up the world in the way that you do. I'm excited to welcome you into this podcast recording and share this conversation with Dr. Julie. Enjoy. Okay. Hey, Dr. Julie, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Thanks, Forrest. I'm like really happy to be here. I've been waiting for months to be here. It just seems like um, our last conversation was so, I'll say, delicious. And so I know this will be just a fun time together with you and I.
Yeah, I'm beaming as you say this because I'm just really enjoying getting to know you and we've I don't know how many face-to-face interactions we've had at this point. It's been a handful, but I feel like I've known you for a very long time. So yeah,
Yeah,
excited to dive in and get to explore and hang out.
sounds great. Yeah, me too. Me too.
So
We're
as I
both
mentioned,
beaming.
yeah, we're both beaming. Yeah.
We're both beaming.
I mentioned to you a little bit, I mentioned to you a little bit about this podcast, that this is a podcast where we actually hold the field as an object. I call it a field first podcast. And so speaking to the listeners, I always welcome in the listeners into our show and we connect with the listeners and attune to the listeners as we're in conversation with them and each other. And so yeah, the invitation for us and for our listeners here, for everyone, just want to welcome you and thank you for being here and let you know that you're invited to relax into and be resourced by and even recreated by the field that we're hanging out in and recording this conversation from. So my hands go into my heart. I just want to let you know that you're deeply loved and held, and I want to welcome you.
That's one of the things I love about you, Forrest, is your connection with the field and how you build this beautiful unitive field of love and coherence. And and in person you radiate that, you carry that with you everywhere you go, so it's beautiful. I did that before we came on today too, of just really connecting with the audience and trusting that the field that we hold is just the perfect nutritive soup, like a
Mm,
chrysalis for this
mm.
conversation and for them, for us.
I
Yeah.
love I love that you use the word nutrient. I've just been and use the word delicious. I mean, there is a satiation of living life from here and being in relationship with the field, and it's unlike anything and unlike anything else, right? It's actually feeding the soul and feeding life and feeding everything. I mean, come on. So I love that you're using these very sensorial words because I also use these. I feel really met by you in this.
Yeah, it's funny that those are the words that came out today, and I it doesn't surprise me though that the deliciousness of this field is so palpable, and oftentimes we want to feel it, like, you know we want to, like, we think it's out there. And so it's interesting that we're talking about that nutritive soup and nutrition and delicious. It's like it is us. We are that. It's like it's not just that we ingest it, that or it's out there, it's separate. It really is this beautiful isness. It's just this beautiful thing that is who we be. So yeah, nice. Good catch.
I've there was a I experienced a subtle invitation in that, which I just want to name explicitly for our listeners. When you were sharing that, I felt an invitation to actually open up just a little bit more and let in this all-pervasive, nutrient-rich love that is and that we are.
Yeah, I'm like, behind you on the screen is this image that I love, and it's called oh shoot, I don't want to do the artist wrong, so it'll pop in a second. But it's this woman with her arms stretched out, and you see this incredible network, this weaving of this network, clear across. She's got the sun behind her. There's gorgeous colors all over, and she's not necessarily weaving this net, but it's literally it's everywhere. And like you just said, it's this invasiveness too, that you see it in her body, like her body and the net are interwoven and transposed. And when I talked to the artist about it before I purchased it, she said it was by accident. She had this image of this woman that she had, and then she had this painting of the net. And for some reason, she chose to put it together in a different life span of these two different pieces of art. So it looks so intentional, like this woman is in that field and is that field and of that field, but she's also like tending it and really being a steward of it. It's just this gorgeous image. I'll send it to you sometime, Forrest. It's just beautiful. And I'll make sure I get the right title for it. But and the artist herself, I can't remember her name right now, but it's gorgeous. And that's what it
Yes.
feels like with this field, right? It's like when we understand it's not out there,
Mhm.
and that literally every cell of our being is a part of the matrix that's every here and no here. It's like nowhere and everywhere. It's all the same. It's really a liberating kind of experience that we have when we understand that.
Mm. Yeah, I'm just hearing the name of your podcast, All Things Connected. It's just ringing in me as you're speaking. And I would love to see a photo of this art, and I can link it in the show notes so the listeners can check it out too. Um,
That'd be great. I'll do that.
I always, sometimes I'll playfully ask people, can you point to me somewhere where the love is not? Or can you point to me somewhere that the divine is not?
And how many people succeed at that for us? Oh,
Well, I feel like this is such a beautiful field and such a beautiful energy to explore. What keeps coming into me to explore with you today, and that is planetary leadership. Now, that's like a guidance that I've gotten about what to explore with you. I truthfully don't know where we'll go in this exploration, which is awesome. We'll see where it goes. But, there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast that I would say are planetary leaders and aspiring planetary leaders, emerging planetary leaders, people who are beyond just a local community, beyond just the household. And these are tremendously important leaders. I'm not making one better than the other, but there's something about on a planetary scale right now. A lot of people who you and I are good friends with and have developed relationships, you and me as well, people who are listening to this podcast, feeling called to step up and embody something that maybe we've never even seen before on planet Earth. So, yeah, I just want to bring this question of, what is planetary leadership to you right now?
wow. I'm glad you asked that. It's been on my mind so much lately as I've been working on a couple projects and showing up for some events. And even just a couple of weeks ago, we went to the UN as part of a delegation to present a leadership model, right? And discussing global governance, which I never thought I would be talking about global governance. And there's so many different opinions and views of what that means now on the planet. So when you say planetary leadership, I just want to like do this juxtaposition at first of, there are those who believe that this evolutionary time on our planet, this entering the unitive age, some believe it's this one unified kind of governance that's needs leaders of this unit government kind of thing, this global one thing. And others are so invested in the local governance and bringing it down even farther into our local communities and neighborhoods and building beautiful new systems and structures of governance. So it's funny, we're talking planetary leadership, but when we look at our governing models, we're seeing really scary things at this time on the planet. Like there's so much fear out there. And so I just want to presence that in this discussion too, as we move into the really there's no right or wrong models. And I really do believe that planetary leadership, maybe even cosmic leadership on this planet, will help to bring forward new governing structures that emerge from the wisdom of this field that we're presencing and the wisdom of the unitive age, the consciousness that we're beginning to embody now and awaken to. So planetary leadership, I usually don't say it in that way, but the thing that I'm working on right now is helping leaders understand that their own personal transformation and awakening is leading to our collective evolution. And I really think that that one piece is an essential part of the conversation when we talk about planetary leadership or global leadership or cosmic leadership on this planet, is to really understand that this awakening process and our own personal transformation is so intricately interconnected and interdependent on the collective evolution at this point. And so with the leaders that I work with, it's like, oh, we've been through this stage of doing the individual work. And then there's so many that say, oh, I'm awake now. Okay, go about my life. I'm awake. And it's like, it's not like that, right? It's like now that you're in this transformative stage of understanding unitive consciousness and beginning to really embody these higher frequencies and states of consciousness as a stage of development, as a stage of consciousness, then there's no separation between that and the work of the planet and the work of all the living systems that are guiding us and part of nature herself, that, our beautiful interconnected relationship with Mama Earth and all of nature and all her creatures. And I've got to say this, Forrest, because you're the age of my youngest son, is that this planetary leadership is for the 7 generations forward, which is a real indigenous um, idea and plan. And they think like that, but we cannot help but think about the future generations and what we're bringing. One of my favorite evolution biologists, Elizabeth Sahtouris, talks about this time on the planet as being that we've been adolescents on this planet as a species. The human species has been in its adolescence and over consuming and doing everything, causing what we look outward and see reflected back. But she says we're now moving into early adulthood. And she talks about caring and cooperation and things that are essential. And so, from her words and from some of my words, I like to say that it's time to build cooperative communities that care for all life and future generations.
Mm.
And so, I really feel like that's a good starting point. I'd love to hear what's moving inside of you as I bring that in. But when I think of planetary leadership, it really is grounded in that ability to build cooperative communities that care and care deeply.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, wow. Okay, thank you. That was beautiful. There's so much nutrient-rich material in what you just shared that we can unpack. I guess just my biggest just kind of inflow, outflow response is I love that you said the word embody several times in what you're sharing. And that was singing over here, the word embodiment as you were talking. And I got this real deep sense that actually we are embodying planet Earth, right? You were speaking about Mama Earth and planet Earth and all of these living systems. And if we look at the collective body of humanity, for example, like we talk about humanity being a one being with with every one of us being a cell in the collective body, right? So 8 billion cells in the body of what we call humanity, and humanity being a teenager that's had a lot of trauma, had a real tough time growing up, and is now entering early adulthood, and things are changing, right? Things are shifting. What's important to us is evolving. And there's an embodiment component in that for us as cells in the way we walk through the world, where we're actually embodying the whole. Of course, there are much larger wholes than just planet Earth, but to talk about planetary leadership, there's a in the moment way to relate with reality and walk through the world where we're feeling at one with the whole planet. And that the reciprocity of that kind of relating with our experience informs an entirely different way, an embodied relating with our experience in the moment, with other people, with an animal, with a flower, with the river we're walking by, our work in the world. I mean, everything changes when we embody a more whole sense of self, that actually there's nothing out there that's not me. We are all of it. And that is promotes, fosters more well-being and flourishing and thriving and um, yeah, generative living. So I'll just hand it back over to you. That's what happens for me listening to you.
Mm. I think I brought in the fear of what's happening on the planet right now. And when people are in an awareness of separation, a consciousness of separation, there is a lot of fear, right? And the thing that's, I think, important to remember is that these breakdowns are leading to the breakthroughs. And one one idea that I think is really helpful is understanding that these cells, these 8 billion cells, are all waking at different times. It's almost like perhaps the nutritive soup that we talked about. It's like, okay, oh, new consciousness. And it's like, okay, usually there's this digestive process that works to get the nutrition and the oxygen in the cells pretty immediate, but it begins and then it moves around the body and then it does its thing. And we're in waves of that with those 8 billion cells. And it's like when the cells have been cut off from their communication source, how do they hear? How do they, a lot of times they go rogue. That's usually the cancer cells. It's like in a body, in a physical body, our 37 trillion cells are all interconnected and interdependent. And it's this beautiful thing, and it works in harmony and it flows. And these cells that begin, like if we think about the developmental stage that we've been in, we know that even as a sperm and an egg, this whole new thing develops and cells begin to come together to cooperate, like we said, build cooperative communities. Oh, now there's an organ that comes together and tissues and bone. And when our cells are disconnected from the communication of oneness, from that divine communication, and forget that they're part of this larger community, it creates illness, it creates a cancer. And, so as far as planetary leadership, it feels really important to just say it's the essential nature of our being is to have patience with the other 8 billion cells who are in varying processes of waking up and coming into community and cooperation. Because the essential messaging for us, I think that's really important for us right here, right now, is that this beautiful field that we mention and talk about at the top of this show is coherent and full of love and of unity. And it's this gorgeous unified field of coherence. That's how I like to say it. And when a system is out of coherence, there's dissonance, there's a lack of harmony. And when we put fear into a system, the systems, so let's just go back to our body again, because we're talking about planetary leadership, and right now is a really important time on the planet. When we go back to our body as a model, when there's fear, there's constriction. And with constriction, there's adrenaline, there's all the stress hormones that happen. The muscles contract, the digestive system slows down, everything internal says, oop, let's give energy to the muscles to fight, flight, freeze, take care of us. And what happens with the mind is it goes from wide open, this awareness of all things, into this narrow tunnel of where's the danger? Where's the danger? And it's just looking for danger. It's like searching for the dangers so that I can take care of myself. So this constriction is not conducive to health, to creativity, to expansion. You're not feeling love in that moment, right? When you're in fear, when there's a stressor that's come in feeling open and accepting and compassionate and all of those things, they're not what's on the top of your mind. It's just danger and alert. But that nutritive soup that we're talking about begins to turn toxic. It begins to just be this thing that without, if you think about our stress response and how we need to take care of ourselves and we need to clear the biochemistry of a stress response with a lot of healthy other kinds of practices to come back into homeostasis and to detox and to be in that space. So I think it's an important part of this conversation, and I don't even remember how I got off on it for us, but I think the compassion for the others as they're waking and coming online at the same time of continuing to hold this beautiful unitive space for us all, even when others may not get it yet or are acting out of harmony with the whole. We hold it and we love and we practice this embodiment, because the embodiment matters. It creates a higher frequency. It nourishes the field, right? It creates. So another important part of planetary leadership at this time, and not going into the fear and not going into othering, and separation and othering of what we don't like.
I'm beaming again. There's just, yeah, you're singing the song in my heart in so many ways right now. So, um, and I want to talk more about the relationship between in our collective body, the places in our collective body, the people, the systems, the cultures, the communities that are sourced from and reverberating fear frequencies. And then these communities that you're talking about, cultivating cooperative communities that are resilient and coherent and deeply loving and compassionate. And I really want to highlight that word resilient too, because there is a strength in this of actually not letting ourselves be overtaken by the fear-based stories and the adrenaline and the cortisol and the fight or flight, and actually going, wait a second, there's a deeper strength, a strength that's a quality of actually our true nature. It's not so much the kind of machismo strength as it is the strength and resilience that comes from the soul that's able to be with everything as it is from a place of love and compassion and curiosity and goodness. Um, but yeah, I just want to invite in this dynamic in our collective body between communities, collectives, systems, and cultures that are fear frequency based, and those that are from cooperative communities and love and wisdom and soul. So yeah,
I want to pick up your word resilient,
yeah.
because this is like 30 or 40 years, 30 years ago, 30 some years probably, when the No Child Left Behind came out in our education system. I was a part of a community mental health center and on a community committee for the No Child Left Behind and mental health and taking care of our community and our children. And we went to a workshop, and this was really fascinating to me. We were studying resilience in children. What makes kids resilient? And so we were talking about at-risk kids, of course, and looking, and this huge aha emerged in my awareness during that time, because I was working on my PhD at the time, and I was thinking a lot about many things besides health, but that the resilience of who we be and at-risk kids. Well, there's a longitudinal study that's gone over decades and decades called the ACE study, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And this group in Alaska with the education department at that time said, "No child left behind. Look at our culture up here. Our kids have dramatic needs. They're all in, there was, I shouldn't say all, but there was this high level of adverse childhood experiences for the children." So they began doing a study on resilience, and they were using the measurements of adversity in childhood. And this is the part you're going to love this, for us. Ready? The end result. What they learned when they did their research, they wanted to know what made children resilient. And so the higher the adverse events, you would think the lack of resilience there was. But what they discovered was that for these children, the more connections they had, the more resilient they became. So they likened the connections not only to their family or their friend circles, but even if someone in the lunch line says, "Hey, Forrest, how you doing today? How'd that baseball game go yesterday?" And little Forrest goes, "Ah, he remembers who I am. He asked me. I'm connected to the person in the lunch line, the guy serving my lunch to me, or the janitor down the hall says, 'Hey, Forrest, how's your mom doing? Did she have a good birthday yesterday?'" And it's like, oh, the janitor remembers it's my mom's birthday, and I was talking about going and getting her a present. He knows me. He's connected. So they were even the very non-intimate connections, but connections that really mattered. So here we're talking about building cooperative communities that care for all life. And that was the result of the study. So I went on and studied more. Like, so what happens to adults when if we the ACE studies predict adult health? That's what it all is about. Adverse childhood experiences as children create really unhealthy adults. So the health and the illness measures go way up. Autoimmune diseases, it's just like you can kind of predict, unless there's some kind of intervention. The more adverse childhood experiences, the less foundational health one adult may expect. So this was done by Kaiser Permanente in California, and a big health study to say, well, we want to reverse this. What do we do for these adults who've had these adverse childhood experiences? So I've studied a lot of those and went into that. So funny, we're talking about research right now, but you mentioned it, resilience. And what creates resilient adults who stay healthy, even though their ACE score might be really high? By the way, my ACE score is a 9 out of 10. And I often joke, I had that much adversity when I was a child, and I'll joke with people, it could have been 10 out of 10, but my dad didn't go to prison, but he probably, that's one of them, a parent that goes to prison, but he probably spent a few nights in jail from bar fights. I just joke about that. I don't know if he ever did, but I imagine that he did. So with resilience for healthy adults, again, that connection is important. And I think here's where we can kind of circle around, Forrest. It's also this connection to this higher level of divine connection. It's not just the connection to community, but it is to the planet, to the divine, to the source, and so much of that creates health and wellness and resilience in adults and in children. So, yeah.
For anyone who's on audio, that you just made this beautiful gesture of when you're speaking about the divine, like it looked like a pulling down in a way. And I was getting, I was just with the horizontal connection to other human beings, to to our planet, and then this pulling down, the more vertical connection to the source. And yeah, I mean, what's, in this time of planetary awakening and humanity going through a collective evolutionary shift in consciousness, there's so much incredible work being done by visionaries and people with huge hearts to care for larger ecosystems and our planet and 7 generations ahead. It seems to me, I would make the argument, we can't do this without the connection to the divine. It's a
Yeah.
it's yeah, I want to hear more from you about the connection to the divine and how it's supporting us in this evolutionary unfolding.
So what's moving in the field that I have to presence first, and I want to talk about like connection to the divine and just following this, is that those who are still in separation consciousness are this process out of fear. They're going to lose everything, right? I know so many people when they first hear things like even Jesus saying, leave everything, follow me. And everybody's like, what? This is my life. I built it. I created it. Like there's so much fear that is in the system when we talk about this transition, this awakening, because they're pretty darn comfortable or have been where they have been, and they don't understand. Forgive them, they know not what they do. So this idea of connection, I had to say this fear thing first because it's not a connection. And when we come from separation consciousness, it's a connection, right? It's like, oh, I'm connected to source. I'm interconnected with source. I'm interdependent with source, with the divine. But it's
I just lost your audio.
you're losing me.
Oh wait, now I got you back. Okay. It was just that one sentence. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. Okay. So where I was that it's not that we're connected to source as out. There's our strange time zone, electricity, field,
Yeah.
frequency, something going on again.
We might be getting into something good here.
Yeah. Well, I can start wherever you want me to start, but I can just start with the divine connection
Yeah,
thing
that's
and
perfect.
just
That's
pick up.
perfect. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate your
Yeah.
resilience.
Yeah. So, oh, here we are. We're still on record. Okay. So, where I was for us is this divine connection isn't really a connection. It is our true nature of reality. It's the essence of who we be. We are divine humans. And so as we're going through this stage of recognition and remembering and that embodiment that we talked about with these higher frequencies, it's a very foreign thing to those still in separation and fear. It's like, no, God is out there somewhere. We've been taught that and conditioned to believe that God is out there, Earth is out there, the planet solar system so far away I can't relate, and you're out there somewhere. Even my family and friends are other. And so our true nature of reality and new science, ancient spiritual traditions, and the knowing of our hearts help us remember this. Like we know this. Like when people really come into a relaxed state of being and just feel the essence of who they be, there's this knowing, oh yeah, there's a divinity. I am divine, and there is no separation. So again, planetary leadership, how do we lead from this place of divine human when there's so much othering going on, like the othering culture, race, religion. We do anything, our neighbors, who we're voting for. There's so much othering, but it is a planetary leadership piece for us. That's kind of like when we talked about when we're doing this awakening and this embodiment, then the whole is who we be. And it's essential that we really understand that. Even the field, from a place of separation and the new age, which was part of our process and waking, but we're moving into the unitive age, right? So when we really understand the true nature of reality and the buy local nature of even our cells, like literally, there's so much wisdom there that's exciting to explore. And all our language, our culture, everything that we've learned up till now as a species, as a planetary species, as a planetary superorganism or a cosmic superorganism, still has that language of separation. Like even when you acknowledged I was talking about this embodiment of the divine and this connection to the divine, oftentimes we do that, right? From the crown down into the body. And yet that's simply this toroidal energy field that I know, and how this connection is a reminder. It's not that I'm ever disconnected or not connected. It's clearly a way that I can tune into this source consciousness and be in a state of remembering consciously and awake that calls on a power that's innate inside each of us. Long answer.
It's beautiful. I mean, there's just so much, again, richness that you're naming here. And I'm amazed even inside myself, I've noticed how deep that story that God's out there goes. I mean, it was just a couple of weeks ago I was doing a meditation and all of a sudden something surfaced and it's like, oh, God's out there. I'm hysterically laughing in a way. I'm going, it's still, there are places in me where this is going on. I mean, of course, right? And it's just incredible how deep that programming is. As you're talking about that conditioning, we grew up in a world that teaches us, God is out there or over there, and we're separate from it. And and then we might have an awakening and we go, oh, I'm one with the divine. But as you're speaking to, there's a nuance there which is like a lot of times I hear people talk about, oh, I'm a vessel for the divine. And so I surrender and I give myself over to the divine. And it's like, yeah, and you're also that, right? You're also that divine. We're not just surrendering and going, okay, now I'm a vessel that's sort of floating separate, getting washed around in the ocean of love. We are also the ocean of love. So I'm really appreciating the precision or the precision that you're speaking to this with. It's tremendously important. I mean, it's everything in a way.
Mm. Yeah, the I'm thinking about, I was just at a retreat and I'm thinking about there was a lot of different religions present. There was a lot of different conversations about states of consciousness. And the conditioning is, you're right, it's so big. And it's how our entire planetary support systems were created, from this consciousness of separation. Like we created this world from this perspective. And I was thinking about this last week, how many people are really chasing the states of consciousness. They want those non-ordinary states. They want to feel that, like losing themselves into this larger unitive soup, where like I have no body, I am just all of that. And psychedelics are coming in to help us with that. um Psychedelics are helping with trauma and depression and anxiety now is literally a valid form of treatment for them, but we also have those that are chasing those experiences, right? We want those out of body. We want those ways to leave that. And so this conversation of embodying that is really about that state. It's how do we go about lifing when the world around us is still in systems and structures that are in separation. And that's why it's so scary right now on the planet, right? Because every system and structure out there was built from separation consciousness for the system of separation.
Yeah.
And so there are beautiful solutions on the planet emerging everywhere for every issue on the planet. Beautiful solutions. Brand new systems and structures coming forward, economic systems, education systems, healthcare systems. Like we have everything we need to move into a unitive age. And yet there's that fear of hanging on to what was. Like we let go of our banking system. Well, what happens to my life savings? What happens to my, all the work, what happens to my retirement? Who's going to take care of me? We let go of our food systems as they are. I don't have a garden in my backyard. What do there's so much fear about moving forward to regenerative models, to unitive models, because we don't know. And so I had a conversation with a really, I think, an important leader on the planet that will help with this, about how do we create the interim systems to calm our nervous system, to create this in between safe space of transition, knowing we're letting go of one old system of separation, moving toward unitive. Well, we can't just jump into the unitive with some of them because some people are so afraid, and you can't blame them, right? It's like, yeah, I'm thinking about all the 8 billion cells in our planetary species here, and there's actually, it's just the human part of it. We have this whole mycelial network with almost every living being, right, on the planet. But then the 37 trillion cells in our body, they don't fight, they trust. They just do their part. And then as they do their part, the rest of the body does its part really well. And so there's harmony between the systems and the structures, and they evolve, and they grow, and they do new things all the time. So yeah, it's a big thing right now for us. Like, how do we trust that we're a divine human and all of our needs will be taken care of, and that we can trust our neighbor to do their part? And if I let go, is someone else going to grow my food? Because I'm not very good in the garden. Like, how do we help humanity get there into this new way of being and trusting?
Yeah, and I want to ask you this because I'm connecting with our listeners in the moment, and I at least imagine as a listener, I'm going, okay, Dr. Julie, tell us, what do I do? How do I relate with this system, with this world that's sourced from fear and it's contracted? And I want to embody this new way. I want to come from the unitive age you're speaking of. And sometimes that's really challenging because I'm walking around in a world that doesn't seem to get that, or that comes from a very different place. So what do I do? How can I be in this?
Wow, it's such a good question for us. And thank you, listeners, for bringing that forward too. We both have friends, I think, that would paint totally different pictures of what this means right now. Like, I'm thinking of one of our mutual friends who would just be in this place of go within and just be. And that's it. Like, that's your role. That's your job, is to do this internal work of realization. the beingness of your divinity, and just the perfection of that. And there's nothing more to do. Like, there's absolutely nothing more to do. Don't put your focus anywhere else. And there are those who are so fear-based with a consciousness. Let me say it this way, Forrest. There are so many who get unitive consciousness in their head. Like, I get the concept. Okay, we're all interconnected, all interdependent. And so that means if something fails, we all fail. If someone's sick, we're all sick. Okay, I get it in my head.
Yeah.
And yet it's not an embodied state or a developmental new level of beingness on the planet. And with a lot of those right now that are leading, they hit the alarm bells. They hit that. It's like, okay, the planet's on fire. We've hit the fire alarm. And they're intentionally leading from the place of fear because of the lack of trust or faith or understanding or whatever it is, or the dire need of action in certain ways. Like, there's who knows what all motivates the different levels of fear, but there's a lot of fear that even that you would imagine the most conscious people are putting into the collective right now, into our collective consciousness. So there's that, from this total relaxing, let go of the cortisol, come into this inner peace, come into this way of being, embody your divinity, remember it. I'm thinking about those states and chasing those states. And when we do come into that unitive space, or even into our heart space, there is a peace, and there is a knowing, and there's a remembering. It's just a different place of being. So how do we do it? I'm going to break it down into the most simplest of simplest forms, because there's so many trying to create mass movements, right? We're going to create networks of networks and movements of movements, and we're all going to come into unison. But that's not how the body works. So if we continue to look at our human body, the cells don't come into unison. They're not all doing the same thing. They come into harmony and balance. There's this incredible ecosystem where, when something's out of balance, a community of cells over here will work a little harder, and some over here might work a little less, and everything will come back into balance again in harmony. So the very simple answer for our listeners today is to really understand who they are and how they're uniquely gifted with incredible purpose. And that purpose in itself carries insight, wisdom, communities of practice, communities of trade, communities of reciprocity. And it's not necessarily everyone on the planet. So when we do understand who we are as individual cells in this planetary, and we tune into what's mine to do, we get to relax and come fully into the expression of that. So past the embodiment stage is the expression and engagement stage that leads to evolution. Part of that is being this frequency in everything I do. When I go to the grocery store, I don't change who I am to connect with someone in separation consciousness again, where they're at. I continue to be in this state and emanate this love and this whatever, and have words and exchange with the checker at the grocery store. And as we learn to engage in the world as the expression of this divine human, as the expression of this unitive age, and I know what's mine to do, then I'm educating. I'm I'm naturally raising the frequency everywhere I go. People can feel that. They ask questions, they learn. They might start in their head, or they might have this embodied experience just being in my presence, your presence, whatever that may be. So there is an essential nature to this of really coming into how am I coded and what's mine to do? And how do I do only that? And then listening to the resonance, like, oh, Forrest and I have a lot of resonance, and there was an incredible connection when we met in person. So we knew we had some things to do together. Hence, here we are in this conversation, right? And where I was last weekend, there were people that I really didn't resonate with. Even my roommate, I loved her. She was beautiful. And she was so into her encoding and what she was there to do with this retreat. And it was beautiful. And she's from Finland, lives in Mexico, and is doing her work. And she's really into her work. And that was the connection she was making. It was, where is that? How am I attuning, and who am I resonating with? And how do I bring the fullness of this expression forward in all of the different ways that we engage and we experience and we educate and share this? So very simple answer, which doesn't, it is an antidote for fear when you know you can embody the piece of it, when you really come all the way back in and go, oh, I only have to do my part. As soon as you go, but they're not doing their part, you're in separation again, right? But they're not doing, but look at their behavior. But, as soon as we do that, we're not in this embodiment of the divine expression expressing.
Yeah, and there's such an appreciation that comes online, right? When we meet someone like your roommate, for example, and it's the metaphor that comes up for me is if we're a cell that's on the way to the shoulder and we pass another cell that's on the way to the foot, it's like, of course, we're not going to resonate with each other. We're going completely different directions in the physical body. But that's beautiful. I mean, it's
Yes.
great. It's like
Beautiful.
have a great trip. Enjoy it. Thanks for doing what you're doing. I'm headed this
Yeah.
way.
And there's this beautiful appreciation that we can have, right?
Right.
There's this beautiful appreciation for who that is. So even like I'm a heart cell, of course, I resonate with other heart cells. And I really don't understand the liver, even though I know I'm so dependent and interdependent on the work of that liver cell. And then there's those that aren't remembering that they're a cell yet. So the more we vibrate as a human cell in the heart and in the liver, it sends this field of remembering for others to go, oh, yeah, I am a human cell, a divine human cell. Oh, I got to get to the foot like Forrest asked me to do. Oh, I'm a part of that. I remember. So when we can just be the full divine human that we are, it helps others to remember their unique part of this larger plan. And that becomes the collective immune system, right? The immune system isn't just the immune system, it still needs every other cell in the body to do its part. And then we have this wild card where we have these beautiful stem cells that can differentiate when we need them, you know? So, like, we have to trust this higher guidance, this higher wisdom, this higher plan, and just be fully who we are. And that recipe, even though it looks pretty darn scary out there at times, will be our pathway through.
Mm, I love that you mentioned stem cells. And I also love that you mentioned the collective nervous system because we've been talking about the superorganism of humanity and our collective body. And I I don't like saying this, but my experience is our collective nervous system is in fight or flight. It's in dysregulation. And there are many of us who are bringing regulated, coherent, grounded energy to our collective body. And it does seem to me that current moment state is skitsy, very panicky, very, oh my gosh, what's about to happen right now? And that's suppressed under a lot of suppressants. It gets activated in with a lot of activants. Um, but it seems to me in some ways that the greatest shift of our time right now is the transition for humanity's collective nervous system from a sympathetic tone to a parasympathetic tone, to the rest, to the relaxation, to the regenerate. And of course, the more we deepen into the relaxation, it's a doorway into the mystical and into the divine. And so for our listeners, I'm just like, this is, if you hang out with me, you hear me talk about this all the time. Like I feel like this is our walk right now. So if anybody's new here or anything, no, like I think this is really important.
It is important. Let me drop something into it. Okay. This homeopathic dose of wholeness back into this, because perhaps there's an illusion that humanity's central nervous system is in fight or flight with the cortisol and the levels. Where you are right now, like all of our listeners, like tune in right now and just take a breath, drop into the heart. Are you in a stress response? I'm not. For us, you don't appear to be. Even though when I said, let's drop this in, there might have been a stop breathing for a second, but you come back in. Let's invite our listeners even to look out the window or the door, or go take a walk in nature, or greet a loved one. How much fight or flight is there when we're in that embodied love and that embodied divinity and this new way of being? So, to be really fair to this topic, our media is inducing a lot of fear. And if we're tuned into media, and it depends on what media that we tune into, but even our social media, which has become this part of a communication network between cells of this planetary organism, it can be polluted with fear, a lot of fear. So there's a truth to what's being carried in the noosphere, what's being carried through media and devices and what have you, that elicits a stress response in those that tune into it. That's why we always hear, don't turn on the TV, don't watch mainstream media, don't, and it's really fun. It's almost like this playground. If you look at it and you see, like, I'll just say the right and the left, like you can watch in the US, you can watch media that's far right and media that's far left, and they're saying the same thing about the other, and what they're thinking about the other is what the other is saying about them. It's like this really amazing kind of process. It can make us feel schizophrenic. It can really make us feel mentally ill, schizophrenic, stressed out, afraid. Like it is crazy making. And when we let go of these devices that are telling us an alternative that's not our own embodied sense of being, and we tune into that experience, it's like, oh, is there a stress response out there? There's a very large contingent of beautiful humans on the planet who are serving this heart space and creating, we all know prayer warriors, we know meditators, we know, there's 1 billion rising of prayer, there's millions on Unify praying at one time, there's like all kinds of gatherings. So if we say our collective nervous system is in stress, then we're almost prescribing that for ourselves to respond with a stress response. So if we can just continue to say, all is well, all is well, we are in the middle of metamorphosis. So it brings in the butterfly, right? It brings in the caterpillar who goes into a chrysalis. And of course, the immune system right away, as I love this story for our listeners, just in case someone doesn't know what really happens inside of a chrysalis. It's an important story that helps us to relax. That literally the caterpillar who literally destroys its own environment and overconsumes and totally destroys its environment without knowing it's doing it, gets so bloated and full that it literally then goes up, hangs itself upside down, and spins this chrysalis around itself. And the skin hardens, goes to the outside. And then what happens is that the caterpillar totally dissolves into nothingness. It becomes green goo. And the green goo is that nutritive soup that we've talked about. So as this organism is all of a sudden deconstructing, imagine being the caterpillar, like, what the heck? What's going on with me? How is this possible? My immune system, where is it? I'm being annihilated, right? And yet this nutritive green goo, this nutritive soup is there as this medium. Maybe this is what we need to talk about with the interim phase of comfort for us. But this nutritive soup then is this space that at first the immune system begins to fight the new cells. So what happens in a butterfly, in a caterpillar, is that there's a completely new cell that's lied dormant in the skin of the caterpillar that's a butterfly. It's an entirely new species. It's not the same species. Caterpillars don't go into a chrysalis and then grow wings and come out and fly. They literally become nothingness. And these imaginal cells are like the stem cells we talked about. These imaginal cells are in the skin of the old caterpillar, and they begin to come out. And they begin to try to find other imaginal souls, imaginal cells. I call them imaginal souls because this is who we are as a planet right now, right? So they begin to find each other and build this community. And once these cells can come together and find each other, they begin to construct and build new life, the life of a brand new species, a metamorphosis. The caterpillar, who's heavy and dense, becomes this being of light that just flits and flies around and becomes this brand new species. It's not the body of the caterpillar. That doesn't exist anymore. That species is gone. We're kind of in this chrysalis stage of humanity. And those fighting are fighting because all I know is that I'm a caterpillar, and you're telling me I'm not a caterpillar, and I don't want to lose my life. I don't get what's happening. I'm afraid. And so here's another antidote. When we talked about the fear, is that educating others of what's really happening with the evolution of consciousness is essential right now. How can we all, as planetary leaders, just really bring in the wisdom of this divine imprint right now and really let go and rest in the awareness of this higher new form that's emerging inside of this global planetary chrysalis moment? It's like there's so many beautiful stem cells, imaginal souls doing this work and showing us the pathway through.
Mm.
So yeah, I love that metaphor. Elizabeth Sattouris teaches it. She's so wise. And if we can all relax into this new place, into our wholeness, into this beingness, into this unitive phase with some trust, it's hard. It's hard to have trust when you look out and you go, ah. Like I drove 3 hours to this retreat and someone sent me a YouTube video and it was a conspiracy theory video. And so I'm like, I was really curious. Like, I want to hear what the mind of this person is saying and how people are right in all of it. And I bring it up because it's scary for us when we go, what's true? What's real? Oh my gosh, what if that's true? What if I'm really wrong? What if none of this, how I see things, or what if all of that is true? That's really scary stuff. And that confusion comes from um, a world in separation that's literally in breakdown and breakthrough mode. So it's like looking at an elephant and you feel a trunk or you feel a leg or you feel the tail or you feel an ear and you go, oh, we're not feeling the same thing. We're looking at this time of great transition from lots of different perspectives and it looks different for everyone. And when someone says it's an ear, it feels like this, and someone's holding the tail going, that's not what it feels like for me. Oh my gosh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're wrong. Oh, maybe they're evil. Maybe they're bad. Maybe they'll, there's so much fear, but we're all coming into this time of transformation from different perspectives with different purpose from different viewpoints in different places on the planet, right? Different acupuncture points, different cellular bodies. The heart doesn't know what the liver's doing. Is the liver going to do its thing? Are those individuals going to come together and be able to clean my blood so I can pump it out? And are the lungs going to do the thing with the oxygen so that it's transmuting every cell that moves in can take that rich oxygen and nourish my body and get rid of the CO2 because it will poison my body. And are they going to do their job so I'll be okay? And when we go back to our heart and just tune in and know we're all of it. And I am that cell. I am that person. I am that one talking about a conspiracy theory right now. And I come back to me in all these stages and tune in. I can come back to that place of peace and knowing and gnosis, the guidance, the divine, the sourcing, and go, oh yeah, all is well. Come back. Come back to this moment. All is well. Come back to the love. That was a tangent for us.
I think we need a different word for tangents that are really beautiful. Because
Mm.
typically tangent has a negative connotation. It's more like a song, like a love song.
Oh, I like that. Thank you. That was a few nice verses in a row. My husband always tells me, he's like, okay, now remember to bring this down into what people can hear right now, like don't talk way out there in the cosmic realms, bring it down where it's digestible in bite-sized pieces. And so I don't like to go on too long of singing this beautiful thing because I want to check in and make sure it's in bite-sized pieces that we can digest and assimilate and integrate into the health of who we are as an organism.
I appreciate that. And, those of us who are caterpillars need to get overstuffed so that we can go into our chrysalis mode. So
Yeah,
I
it's a
love,
hard play.
yeah. I was just gonna say I love so much what you really, for me, you really answered the question, that I feel that I asked on behalf of the listeners of what can I do and how can I be in all this, which is come back to the heart and emanate, right? Just embody, emanate, radiate the love, the regulated, grounded, coherent energy, the fundamental okayness, right? Like right here, right now, in this moment, everything's okay. And I just, my hands on my heart because I know how challenging that is. I mean, when I just want to acknowledge how challenging that can be. And I don't want to run away from that because I imagine people who listen to this could come into this podcast and have a state experience of like, wow, here's Horace and Julie having this amazing conversation and, you know, whatever, peak experience, right? It's a state induced peak experience being in this field. And I'll just speak for myself. There are moments that I have. Most of the time, pretty free flowing, pretty easy going. There are moments where it's a challenge to go, oh, this moment is the practice of coming back to love and bringing. I've seen a couple of times, even in the last week, where some event happens, and for a moment I pull myself out of it, and I'm back in that, and it is such a different world. It is such a different world to be in the othering and the this guy's trying to rip me off or gosh or whatever. And just having that experience helps me develop so much compassion for my former self, so much compassion for other people walking in the world and going, okay, actually, at the end of the day, I know there is no event that can happen that has the power to pull me out of this state that you and I are speaking to and speaking from and inviting people to live life from. There's no event that can happen that can pull us out of this state. We pull ourselves out of this state and then give some event all the credit. But the reality is, and the invitation is to embody this more and more fully so we are it in every moment eternally.
It's like we hear the phrase spiritual bypassing from the New Age. And I mean, that's a real thing, right? A spiritual bypass of, oh, we'll just go into love and light. And, you know, but what we're talking about today is not a spiritual bypass, it's a spiritual pathway. It's like the embodiment is all there is. And so we can go into these challenging situations and help transform and transmute and calm. One of my gifts, somebody acknowledged this weekend, is I can be the calm in the storm. Like when there's chaos and calm, I'm one that I can carry this field and people relax into their own solutions because of that. So see, that's not a spiritual bypass. That's let's face this and let's be part of the solution. And let's build our new world around our true values, around this love, around this heart space. Let's build from heart coherence and not our heads in separation, but let's rebuild. Let's really do the work. So it's not a spiritual bypass. It really is a spiritual passageway forward through this time. It's essential. We need our calm. We need our sense of wholeness showing up for the work. Even like my husband going about his day today, the insurance industry's in crisis too, with all of these weather events. And it's a crazy time. The financial industry's in crisis too. Everyone is in the industries that we work in are in crisis because they're breaking down as new breakthroughs come in. They don't really represent us of who we really are. They don't reflect the true nature of reality and our values. And so they do need to be shifted. But like my mentor always used to say, let's gentle this birth. We gentle the birth. It's not about going in and totally creating havoc in the deconstruction process of all the breakdowns. We gentle it and be part of the solution so that we're bringing the breakthrough solutions forward and we're midwifing that and that level of consciousness while we're hospicing what's dying, with love, with respect, with compassion, with patience. We hospice at the same time that we midwife and we gentle the birth, we gentle this transition.
There's a tab on my website titled Unified Fields of Coherence. And in it, I have a graphic where I show these fields we facilitate, where we hospice out the old and midwife in the new. It's a facilitation practice to facilitate for people and for groups exactly what you're saying. And I know you do this work with people, uh, but I'm just delighting in the level of relating that we're getting to have in the moment. I feel such a kindred spiritness, and it's just so cool. I mean, the little kid in me is like, this is just so amazing. So I'm holding reverence for the deep wisdom that you're sharing and and exuding, and I'm also just giddy with joy of how much fun I'm having a friend in all this right now. And there's more and more people every day who are showing up playing life like this. So
Yeah. You know what? They're all over.
yeah.
And literally I want to bring up two things. One is we're not alone. And when we finally discover that, like, don't give up, keep looking. There are people in your neighborhood, you'll be surprised. They're all over the planet, they're emerging everywhere. This consciousness, as a result of this impulse of evolution, it's much greater than who we are as an individual cell in this planetary or cosmic organism. So this is emerging through us and with us. So be part of it. But the joy frequency, when you're talking about joy, we've talked about calm and peace and heart and love, compassion, but the joy frequency is kind of the part that gets it going, right? It spreads it creates this new thing where people can resonate and come in, and it builds those cooperative communities. It builds the caring for all life. The joy is essential. So I'm so glad you presence joy, and that giddiness of joy, right? That elation, that high of what it feels like to be in this natural frequency, and to experience ourselves from that lightness of being. Yeah, that's the secret to the soup there. That's the secret sauce. I
That's the
love that.
secret sauce. Yeah. Yeah, and it bring it's emptiness and fullness, right? We get into the emptiness of spacious, peaceful, still, quiet, and then we get in the fullness of the songs of the birds and ultimately what turns into miracle consciousness for me, that the joy and the exuberance and the aliveness and the passion and the vitality. And when these two really sing together, the deep stillness, the deep quiet,
Mhm.
the deep peace with also the vivacious, passionate, exuberant aliveness and joy, sometimes even orgasmic frequencies, right? All of these interpenetrating and just being one song, right? That's like, well, yeah, all becoming
I
one
love
with,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the attractor factor. That's it, right? That's it.
I've never heard that before, the attractor factor. That's
Yeah,
so
it's that
good.
joy, that radiance. It's that thing when we're in it, then we're attracting everything we need
Mm,
into
mm,
who we
yeah.
be. It's
Mm,
like bringing that
yeah.
level of, yeah, the joy frequency is an attractor factor. Definitely.
I facilitated a community call a week ago, and we were really opening up to and embodying this reverberation that we're getting into right now. And some people, we did a game where people were embodying an energy they might not usually let themselves do it, either someone they despised or someone that they admired. And one person named Jesus. This is somebody who I really admire, and I invited them facilitating this call to actually be Jesus. What is it like to step into the energy of Christ? And several people are doing this, and in one moment somebody pulls themselves out of it and goes, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, right? It was so pure. It was so pure to just feel that. And that's the fear, right? You've been speaking to it perfectly the whole podcast.
Yes.
um But this came up for me as you were speaking about the attractor factor, because being the source of the money, right? Being one with the source of the money, being one with the source of the fear. We are creating these fears. We're creating these planetary systems. We're creating these cultures we're walking around in and these medias that we're consuming. Like we are a part of and in relationship with and intimately connected with all of it. And to me, that's tremendously empowering. It's tremendously empowering when we really step into our sovereign, divine, networked relationship with everything.
Yeah. And just this would be a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. But in that space, like to know we're creating those energies, right? We're creating those is that where we're at on this planet right now, the entire solar system is conspiring to love us through this time. Like literally, how the planets have moved and what's happening is that we're moving into this age and we're completely supported. And it's scary. And it's a lot of change and a lot of chaos. But we're completely supported to go through this transition and to make it to the other side. And we will. Each of us, all of us, the whole of us. We've got it. We'll get there.
We got this.
We've got it.
I feel an opportunity. There's a transition energy for me present in this moment, and I feel an opportunity for us to be even more practical in what we're sharing with the listeners for the last segment of this recording, and just really get into the practices that are serving us most right now. Or just to give an example, as I was just listening to you, I remember a time in my life where I invited all of my friends to get together. I think this was a Michael Beckwith practice that I found, if you're familiar with him. Um, and it was to say, I'm so scared that X, and I love that. Or like, I fear that X, and I love that. And this was insanely powerful to do as a group. I mean, we would all be sitting in a car together and start doing this, and we would feel like the car was going to lift up off the ground. Like you're just bucketing out your deep down fears of like, I'm really afraid that XYZ is going to happen and I'm going to be all alone forever. And I love that. And in the moment that we say, and I love that, and if we really do it, not just intellectualize it, but feel it, there's an opening that happens in a release. So I kind of want to play like ping pong with you and be like, okay, I just gave him a practice. Like, go hit it over there and see if you've got one that you might want to share with the listeners.
I want to play with that one. Yes, no, that's a really good one. I love that. And I really do appreciate us in our fears to acknowledge them
Mm,
and then to love it, right? To really, really, really love it. That's a really powerful one for us. And especially when we look outside and see others in fear and others in anger and hatred and these things, is like to come back in and go, oh yeah, I'm really afraid. Like I just mentioned one earlier, like, oh, what if I'm wrong and the conspiracy theorists are correct? And that's really going to happen. Like, yeah. So that's a good one. Thank you, Michael Beckwith, if that was yours. One of the tools that I'll ping pong out that I think is really so powerful for this time on the planet right now is heart math and understanding heart math's quick coherence technique and other heart coherence practices. They have several. And you just go to heartmath.com or Heart Math Institute and Google that. But the quick coherence technique brings us into our heart and then literally helps the heart go into coherence with the brain, creates this powerful field. It's so amazing and easy. As a psychotherapist of over 35 years, I would teach meditation all the time, and people would go, I can't meditate, I can't get my mind to stop. Heart coherence is focusing on your heart. I can even teach it in this normal tone of voice and not go into a meditative voice. And people go, oh, that's awesome. So look up quick coherence technique, and you could do that in the grocery store or the line of the grocery store. You could do that at the gas station. You could do it driving down a freeway. You could do it as a meditation practice. It's powerful and it's all science based. So the more we learn about the power of the heart, the better off we're all going to be. So I'll throw that one out.
I'm celebrating. I love heart math, and yeah, I retweet that one. Hearing you. I,
Amen.
I'm glad you said amen, because I'm going to bring in confession actually from Catholicism. I would say my favorite, and I'm not Catholic, or no, I don't have a history of being Catholic, but I've really been lately with this practice of confession and going, and for me, that's been in relationship to big love, right? To this unbounded wholeness that we're speaking about and relating from in a lot of our podcast recording today. But there's so much, speaking on a personal note, there has been a lot of fear of, oh, if people knew this or people knew that, etc. And it's all the ways that we keep the light from coming in, keep the love from coming in. We go, oh no, I'm not worthy of love, because if you knew that, you wouldn't love me, or I wouldn't be X or Y or Z. And so the power of opening up to life, opening up to the universe, opening up to big love, to unbounded wholeness, and going, hey, this is who I am. This is what's happened. These are the things I've done or thought about doing or what's unfolded. Am I still worthy of love? Right? Like, how does unbounded wholeness and big love and the divine relate with us when we do that? I just invite everyone to give it a go. That's a practice that I recommend.
Confession's good. Forrest, do you confess with other humans, or do you journal it, or what, how would you practice confession that's really effective for you? Because I just had that thought the other night. I was out walking and I walked by a house and I thought of something that I did as a young, I was probably 12. And I walked by a house and I had that memory and I'm like, oh, maybe I need to say that out loud to someone. Like it popped in my awareness. I was 12 years old. Like, do you practice that? You said you're not Catholic, so you're not going to the priest and sitting in the booth. But how do you recommend confession? Because from a psychologist's point of view, it is incredibly powerful and effective.
I would say all of them. There seems to be, I mean, for me, there's like a capital R right way that it happens, but sometimes I'm looking into the one, right? I'm just sitting here and I'm looking into unified whole consciousness. And it's just like, okay, you can see everything, right? It's always been the case. Here I am. Am I still lovable, right? For that part that might feel that way. So that's one way to do it. If you're somebody who ever has experiences like that, is you can speak to whatever you speak to, God, Jesus, Krishna, the universe, whatever you speak to, and see how that goes. I also have done it with other people. I really recommend, doing it with people who can hold unconditional love of you. I I don't know if I would recommend doing it I wouldn't do it in a situation where I feel like I'm going to receive judgment. Like I actually probably wouldn't do it in a Catholic setting a lot of times, because my system goes a little, I don't know if I feel safe to open up and be vulnerable here, because I might not be coming from my most resource place. I might be coming out of a wound and need to be held in that love and compassion and resourceness for healing to occur. So my favorite part of your question is it invites in the mindfulness and the heartfulness around the wisdom of what is the right context, set and setting to do this practice. Do I do it in relationship? Like I've done it, Julie, I've done it with the ocean before. I've walked out in the ocean in the middle of the night and I've just poured my heart out. And I've just gone, here's everything that's going on. And I'm doing that to the concrete physical ocean I'm swimming in, but I've also done it to the ocean of love that is all pervasive and just pouring my heart out. I
Mm.
had I had friends in high school and we would have meetups and call them heart to hearts. Whenever we were having difficulties with each other and stuff, we'd all meet up on my back porch and sit down and we'd all go, okay, we need to have a heart to heart. And we would just let it rip and share with each other. So it's about finding that right moment and that right context will emerge and maybe not try to force it in a moment where yeah, maybe not force it.
I love the referencing safety, just creating safe space for that. It's essential. So I'll do one more ping pong that you introduced, which is religion and spiritual practices. Right now, as we're going through this incredible time on the planet, there's so much about religion breaking down. There's so much blame and shame inside. Um, some will say there's no future for organized religion. And I just want to, as a tool today, just really presence that there's goodness and beauty inside every religion. When we get to there's incredible sacred texts, there's incredible spiritual practice, there's beauty. I think one of the things I miss most about organized religion is just the music. And I just said this to someone the other day. It's like, I might not agree with the lyrics because of the doctrine, but to have the organ playing and the choir singing and these old hymns, it's like, so my encouragement today is to embrace those small places, no matter what religion. If you want it, it's not about shaming or blaming or leaving or staying, or it's so confusing. It's the same thing right now. We're all in different places. And so wherever you feel that strongest resonance and a practice brings you back into that spaciousness and that unitive place of love and joy, those two that we've already presenced. When you feel that, go there. Like, I think I'll turn on some really good old gospel music today and turn it up loud and dance around the house this afternoon, because I get that experience with that. So prayer, sacred texts, meditations, like, there's beauty everywhere. Find what resonates with you, and unapologetically
Mm.
be in that space of what feeds you today, and it may totally change tomorrow, and you may not resonate with it anymore, and that's okay too. And just allow yourself to be in that exploratory place of where you and the divine are in that fullness of communion as one, not as something outside of you.
I love the array of options you gave there, the sacred text, the prayer, the meditation, dancing, music, and something I play with on these things is the spectrums of that, right? It's
Mm.
like, okay, if something's a little bit turbulent or something, do I need a little bit more silence or a little bit more sound? Do I need a little bit more stillness or a little bit more movement? And just playing in those spectrums. Maybe it's a time to crank up the music and dance like crazy. Maybe it's a time to sit down and meditate, and just being able to play through those. Um, yeah, I really like the array that you gave of all those different ways to commune with the divine as the divine.
And you know what? We better not let this time go without communing with nature too. I just want to drop that in. Talk about changing your vibration. Like, go out and lay on the earth. Like, go listen to those birds that you talked about earlier. Sit under a tree. Go to the ocean. We've dropped that in. Go to the mountaintop. Like, yeah, let's commune with nature. It will reset. It's a good, healthy reset for that whole central nervous system that we talked about being in stress mode. Our collective immune system needs us to commune with nature. essential.
Well, this has been a total treat for me. I'm so grateful for you, and um, I experience you as a never-ending flow of wisdom, and it's evident to me we could probably do a 24-hour long podcast recording and just keep going. So I imagine we'll have some future episodes together. But I just want, my hands go in my heart. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being you, thank you for being such a light in the world and all the amazing things that you're up to. And I so appreciate your embodied transmission and how you walk through the world. So enjoying getting to know you, getting to deepen in this dance together. And I'm really looking forward to whatever's next.
Thank you, Forrest. And thank you for trusting me enough to be here with your listeners and to share from this place and to trust me enough to even just show up to say, we have no idea what we're going to talk about today, but let's just see. I love that about you. So thank you. It's been a delight and it went by really fast. And yeah, I just really appreciate the invitation and the energy and essence that you bring to the planet. And go millennials. I'm really like, I'm really hyped up about millennials on the planet right now and having us co-mentor one another, because that's what this feels like. It's not just that, we have wisdom in certain ages or wisdom in certain places or certain religions or certain texts. It's like we're all bringing through the wisdom. So let's co-mentor one another. And I'm really happy to have you in my life now. So I'm so glad you're the one that initiated it. You recognized me and said, "Hey, I know you." So I'm
Yeah.
so happy we met in person and got to experience that together. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'll link all your information in the show notes so people can find you and engage with you. Is there any upcoming offerings that you have, any programs that you want listeners to be aware of, or just anything else you want to share with folks before we
Oh, well,
pause
don't
for
say
now?
anything else because we'll go
Okay.
for another hour. But we can watch for we're going to be creating what I talked about, the butterfly, Imaginal Souls. The brand Imaginal Souls is coming online, and we'll have a Chrysalis community that will be a real easy membership kind of community, plus some intensives, some co-creator intensives that are spring and fall. And then I'll be doing, I have a cohort. I do private mentoring with just a small handful of people and have a project that's closing right now, which will open up time for probably 3 or 4 new clients for the private mentoring that I do. And then 2025, there's a big event. So if people want to go to juliecrollemail.com and sign up for my email, I haven't sent an email for probably 6 months or more, but I do when there's things going on or podcasts being released and things like that. And this 2025 event feels really big and important. And so feels like it's going to be a fascinating journey for a lot of us. It just fell in my lap with a lot of details. So I'm listening and we'll keep everyone posted about that 2025 fall event. So yeah, but sign up for my email. The Imaginal Souls program will be just really fun and delightful on many levels. And we can go deep or we can just stay in community and build those new pathways, those neurotransmitters of communication between all of us. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a tremendous passion for sharing amazing people and their work in the world. So I like having my podcast audience be able to know what's happening for you and your and the gifts that you're sharing with the world. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And we'll be starting a new season of Main Street Mystics soon too on the podcast. So that'll be good.
So you have Main Street Mystics and All Things Connected.
Yes.
at least two podcasts.
Yes, there's a third one that's coming online called The Whole Conversation. So, yeah,
Yeah,
The Whole Conversation, that one will be coming up in the next month or two. So, yeah,
beautiful.
there you go.
Well, thank you. And thanks to all the listeners. I appreciate you all being here with us. It's nice to feel you in the field, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Be
Thanks,
well. Lots of
Forrest.
love, everybody.
Be well, everyone.
See you.